Have you ever sat quietly in your living room, maybe with a warm cup of tea in your hands, and wondered, when did life become so loud, even in the silence? Not just noise from outside, but the kind that hums in your mind, the to-do lists that never end, the closets full of things you do not need, the calendar that used to be full of joy, but now just feels heavy. As women, we have spent so much of our lives taking care of others, children, partners, parents, co-workers. We have carried the weight of homes, responsibilities, expectations, and sometimes heartbreak. And in the process, we've picked up so many things, both physical and emotional, that we never had the time to sort through. But what if this season of life wasn't about doing more or holding on tighter? What if it was about gently letting go of the things that no longer serve you, the pressure to keep up, the guilt that whispers you're not doing enough, the idea that your value comes from how much you can carry? This is not a video about giving everything away or starting from scratch. It's about something far more powerful. It's about making room for yourself, for your peace, for the kind of joy that doesn't come from having more, but from needing less. So if you've been feeling a little overwhelmed, a little tired, or just quietly wondering what really matters now, I want you to stay with me. You're not alone, and you are not too late. Let's begin this journey together. 1. The weight we don't see. I want to tell you about Margaret. She's 68 years old, a mother of 3, and she's been a widow for just over 6 years now. One morning, she stood at the doorway of her bedroom closet, staring at rows of neatly folded sweaters and shoes lined up by decade. She wasn't looking for anything in particular, just standing there, quietly overwhelmed. She told me later, it wasn't the stuff that got to me. It was the stories behind them, the memories, the weight of it all. Margaret still had her husband's coat hanging near the back. She hadn't touched it in years. The moment she reached for it, something inside her shifted. She sat on the edge of the bed, coat in her lap, and for the first time in a long time, she cried. Not because she missed him more that day than any other, but because she realized how much she'd been carrying. Grief, love, guilt, even fear, and how tightly it was all tied up in the things she didn't know how to let go of. This is the kind of weight many of us carry, not always in our arms, but in our homes, in our memories, in the quiet moments between phone calls and meals. As women, we often tell ourselves that holding on is strength, that keeping everything, every dish, every photo, every gift ever given, means we're honoring the past. But sometimes, holding on can keep us from moving forward. Sometimes, it can crowd out the space we need to breathe. Letting go doesn't mean we're forgetting. It doesn't mean we're throwing away love. It means we're making room for clearer memories, for peace, and for the present. When Margaret began to slowly let go, one drawer at a time, she noticed something unexpected. Her home felt lighter, yes, but so did her spirit. She started to remember her husband, not through the things, but through her own stories. The way he laughed when he read the paper, how he danced with her in the kitchen when her favorite song came on. These memories rose up, clear and warm, now that the clutter had made space for them. There's a quiet kind of strength in choosing what stays and what no longer serves you. And you don't have to do it all at once. You can start with one shelf, one letter, one shirt you've been holding on to just in case. And when you let it go, take a deep breath and say to yourself, I'm not losing, I am making space. So many women I've spoken to, whether they're 60 or 80, have told me the same thing, that the hardest part of simplifying is not the work itself, but facing the emotions we've kept buried under the busyness, the guilt, the sadness, the fear of forgetting. But when they begin, even slowly, they discover something they didn't expect. Freedom. Freedom from overwhelm. freedom from the past holding too tight, and most importantly, freedom to step into the kind of life they actually want to live now, one with less noise, more peace, and room to be who they are today. So I want to ask you gently, what are you still holding on to? Not because it brings you joy, but because you haven't felt ready to let it go. What would it feel like to open your hands, even just a little, and begin to release what weighs you down? Not everything needs to go, but not everything needs to stay either. You get to choose, and that in itself is power. 2. Quiet is not emptiness. There's something a lot of women don't talk about after 60. We get so used to filling every space, every moment, every room, every relationship, that when things finally quiet down, it can feel a little unsettling. Some call it loneliness. Others call it stillness. But whatever name you give it, the silence that shows up after the kids are grown, the work is done, and the noise dies down, it's real. And it can be hard. Let me tell you about Evelyn. She's 64, lives in a small desert town in Arizona. After she retired, her calendar didn't. Church events, neighborhood potlucks, grandkid birthday parties, volunteering on Tuesdays and Fridays. She said yes to everything. And she didn't know why she felt so tired, so burned out, so invisible. One day, she canceled a lunch date because she simply couldn't fake the energy anymore. Instead, she poured herself a cup of tea, stepped out onto her back porch, and sat quietly for a while. No music, no phone, just the soft sound of wind moving through dry leaves. And then, out of nowhere, she whispered to herself, "I don't want to miss my life, trying to keep up with everyone else's." That moment changed her, not overnight, but slowly, gently. She started to say no, with kindness, not excuses. She stopped showing up to things that drained her. And for the first time in decades, she sat with herself, not to fix anything, not to accomplish anything, but just to be. At first, the silence felt uncomfortable, even scary, like walking into a room and hearing your own thoughts echo. But then, something beautiful started to happen. In the quiet, she began to hear her own voice again, the voice that used to write poems in college, the one that used to dream about opening a garden cafe, the voice that had been drowned out by years of doing, giving, rushing. Quiet isn't emptiness. It's not the absence of life. It's the presence of peace. And sometimes, that quiet is where healing begins. So many women spend their entire lives tending to everyone else's needs. We forget that we're allowed to want stillness. We forget that rest is not laziness, that solitude is not shameful, that choosing to be alone doesn't mean being lonely. It can mean being whole. Evelyn now starts her mornings differently. She wakes up, opens her bedroom window, and takes 10 minutes just to breathe. She told me, "At first, it felt like I was wasting time. Now I know I was reclaiming it." And that's something I want to offer you today. The invitation to reclaim your time. Not to fill it up with tasks or appointments or other people's expectations, but to let yourself sit in the stillness and discover that there's a whole rich world waiting inside you. Sometimes, in the quiet, you remember things you didn't even know you'd forgotten. You remember the dreams you had when you were 16, the ones that were quieted by responsibility. You remember how much you used to love painting, or dancing, or planting tomatoes. You remember the sound of your own laughter when no one's watching. You remember that you are still here, not just as a mother, a wife, a caretaker, but as you. And that you, my dear, is enough. When we learn to embrace quiet, we begin to reconnect with our intuition, our creativity, our truest desires. That's the joy of missing out. Not missing out on life, but finally saying no to what doesn't feel like your life. You don't need a full schedule to feel full inside. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to earn your rest. You have already done enough. You have already been enough. Now is the time to slow down. Not because life is ending, but because something new is beginning. This chapter is yours to write. It can be quieter, yes, but it can also be deeper, richer, and more meaningful than anything that came before it. So the next time you feel the urge to rush into another obligation, pause, breathe, and ask yourself, is this for them or is this for me? Then listen for the quiet answer. Because inside that answer, you might just find a kind of peace you've been longing for all along. 3. Stories from the heart. There's something powerful about hearing someone else's story, especially when it sounds a little like your own. That's what June told me, sitting on the front steps of her little white cottage in North Carolina. She's 72 now. The house used to be much bigger. 5 bedrooms, 2 stories, a large basement, filled with everything she thought she might need one day. But that one day never really came. After her youngest daughter moved away, the house grew quiet. Not peaceful quiet, but the kind that echoes with everything you're trying not to feel. The kind that makes you tiptoe around your own memories. She said, I used to go into the basement just to open boxes and cry. Not because I missed my kids. Well, okay, yes I did. But because I didn't know who I was anymore without them to take care of. So she did something bold. She sold the house. She moved into a small cottage, 1 story, just enough room for her favorite books, a table for 2, and a garden full of hydrangeas. And in the process of letting go of her stuff, she found pieces of herself again. Now she wakes up early and walks barefoot in the grass. She bakes bread not because anyone needs her to, but because she loves the smell of it. She told me with a smile, I used to think a smaller house meant a smaller life, but it turns out it made more space for the life I'd been too busy to live. Then there's Clara. She's 67 and lives in Michigan. One Saturday, she decided to finally clean out her attic. She expected to find old winter coats and maybe a few photo albums. But what she didn't expect to find was a box labeled, Don't Open. Inside were letters. Some she wrote, some never sent, some too painful to finish. She told me, I had no idea how much anger I was still holding. Toward my sister, toward myself. I thought I had moved on, but I had just buried it under sweaters. That day, Clara sat on the attic floor and started writing again. A real letter this time. Not one to be hidden away. One to be mailed. It had been nearly 15 years since she had spoken to her sister. 2 weeks later, her phone rang. It was her. They didn't solve everything, but they started again. And sometimes that's enough. Clutter isn't just in our homes. It lives in our hearts too. Old stories, broken relationships, words we never said. But when we clear space outside, it often gives us the courage to clear space inside. And then there's Rosa, 70 years old, born and raised in Texas. For most of her adult life, shopping was her therapy. Catalogs, coupons, online carts. She said, I was trying to fill something, but I didn't know what. After retiring, the packages stopped making her happy. They just made her feel surrounded, and not in a good way. One day, she walked into her garage and counted 6 unopened boxes. That's when it hit her. More things didn't equal more comfort. They just made it harder to move freely. So she tried something different. Instead of shopping, she started painting again, something she hadn't done since high school. At first, it felt awkward. Her hands weren't as steady. But her heart? Her heart felt brand new. Now Rosa paints in the morning sunlight with classical music in the background. She wears the same 2 aprons every day. She gave away most of her clothes and hasn't missed a single one. She said, I didn't find myself in a shopping cart. I found her in brushstrokes. These women aren't perfect. They're not gurus or experts. They're just real. They're you. They've laughed, cried, lost, loved, and learned that maybe the best parts of life aren't in what we hold on to, but in what we choose to let go of. So maybe your attic is full. Maybe your heart is heavy. Maybe your spirit is tired. That's okay. You're allowed to start again. You're allowed to feel what you feel. You're allowed to make your life a little quieter, a little smaller, and a whole lot deeper. And remember, every single item you release, every burden you set down, is not just making space in your home. It's making space in you. 4. Wisdom from the ages. You know, this longing for a simpler, quieter life, it's not new. Long before social media, 24-hour news, or closets packed with just-in-case items, people were already asking the same questions we're asking now. Questions like, what really matters? What do I truly need? And how can I live with more peace? One of those people was a Greek philosopher named Epicurus. You may have heard his name before, but he's often misunderstood. Some people think Epicurus was all about pleasure and indulgence, but in truth, he believed in the exact opposite. He believed in enough. Not more, just enough. He said that a simple meal, good friendship, and peace of mind were all a person needed to be happy. He didn't need luxury. He didn't chase status. He just wanted a life that felt full, not from excess, but from meaning. He once wrote, "Do not spoil what you have by desiring what you have not." That line stopped me in my tracks the first time I read it. How often have we done exactly that? How many moments of peace have we missed while chasing after something else, something shinier, louder, newer? And then there's the Buddha, born into wealth and privilege, surrounded by beauty and comfort. But something in his soul told him, this isn't it. So he left it all behind and spent years searching for truth. At first, he went to the extreme, denying himself food, comfort, even sleep. But eventually, he realized that neither indulgence nor deprivation brought peace. What he found instead was something he called the middle path. Not too much, not too little, just enough. Balance, awareness. A life built on presence, not pressure. The Buddha's way was gentle. He believed that peace didn't come from controlling everything around you. It came from calming what was inside of you. And that's something we can all practice, no matter our background, beliefs, or age. You don't need to sit under a tree for months to discover peace. Sometimes, you just need to sit still for 5 minutes in the morning, with a warm drink in your hands and your phone turned off. And then there's the wisdom of the Stoics, philosophers from ancient Rome who believed that true strength came from within. One of them, Seneca, wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more who is poor." Let that sink in. So often we're told that more is better. More success, more stuff, more attention. But what if better isn't always more? What if better is less? Less noise, less comparison, less need to be everything to everyone. The Stoics taught that if we want less, we suffer less. Because the less we depend on things outside of us, the more power we have over our own peace. That doesn't mean we stop caring. It means we care differently. We focus on what we can control, our thoughts, our choices, our responses, and we learn to let go of the rest. These ancient voices, Epicurus, the Buddha, the Stoics, they lived in a different world than ours. But somehow, their wisdom still feels like it was written for us, today, right now. Especially for women like you, who have spent decades giving everything you had to the people around you. You deserve to receive something now, not things, but space, stillness, joy. And you don't have to go back thousands of years to find that kind of peace. Sometimes it starts right here, in this moment, in this breath. With one question: what is enough for me? Enough space, enough love, enough quiet, enough time to enjoy the simple beauty of a day without rushing through it. The truth is, you already hold the wisdom you need. These teachings just help you remember what your soul has always known, that life doesn't have to be loud to be meaningful, that peace isn't found in the next big thing. It's found in the small things, over and over again, in the sound of wind through the trees, in a letter from an old friend, in the taste of something homemade, slowly savored, in a room where every object has a purpose and nothing is there just to impress. Let the world keep spinning fast. You're allowed to move slowly because you've earned that pace. And in that slowness, you might just hear something your heart's been trying to tell you for years. This is the life I was meant to live. 5. How to begin again. You might be thinking, all of this sounds beautiful, but where do I even start? That's a good question, and it deserves a good answer. One that doesn't ask you to change your whole life overnight or become someone new. Because the truth is, you don't need to become anyone else. You just need to come home to yourself. And sometimes, coming home begins with one simple step. So here are 5 gentle, heart-centered ways you can begin to live with less and feel more. No rules, no pressure, just possibilities. First, let go of 10 things this month. That's it. 10. Maybe it's a shirt that doesn't fit, or a vase you never liked. Maybe it's old paperwork you've been saving out of habit, not need. Pick one small area, a drawer, a corner, a single shelf. Hold each item and ask, do I use this? Does this bring me joy? Or am I keeping it out of guilt, fear, or habit? You don't have to throw away memories. You're just deciding what still supports the woman you are today. Letting go is not about loss. It's about lightness. Second, cook for yourself, at least 3 times a week. Not because you have to, not because someone's coming over, just because your body deserves your care. There's something sacred in preparing a simple meal. A bowl of soup, fresh salad, warm toast with a drizzle of honey. No rushing, no multitasking. Just you and the rhythm of nourishing yourself. Food doesn't just fill us. It connects us to the present moment, to our senses, and sometimes to memories that matter. Third, begin your day with 10 minutes of silence. No television, no phone, no headlines. Just sit near a window or on your porch or in your favorite chair. You don't have to meditate or clear your mind. Just be. Let the light come in. Let your thoughts arrive without judgment. Let your heart speak if it wants to. You might hear something surprising in that quiet. You might feel peace returning. You might finally notice the sound of your own breath and how beautiful it is. Fourth, choose 3 people and give them your best time. You don't need dozens of friends. You need the right few. Reach out, call, write a letter, invite someone over for tea. Sit and really listen without rushing to move on to the next thing. Let these relationships be your treasures, the ones that don't just fill your calendar, but fill your heart. You might be surprised how much life there is in a single unhurried conversation. Fifth, before you buy something new, ask yourself one question. Can I live without this? Most of the time, the answer will be yes. And that yes is freedom. It saves you space, money, time, and mental energy. But more than that, it creates room for something far more valuable, contentment. Because when we stop chasing more, we begin to enjoy what we already have. That's where joy lives. And here's one more small practice. A bonus, if you will. Start a gratitude notebook. Each night, write down 3 things you're thankful for. They don't have to be big. In fact, the smaller, the better. A cool breeze on your walk, a smile from a neighbor, the sound of your favorite old song. Over time, This one habit can shift the way you see your entire life. It doesn't erase the hard days, but it reminds you that even on those days, there is still beauty to be found. Now, I want to be very honest with you. This path of living with less, it isn't always easy. Some days, you'll feel resistance. Some days, you'll wonder if it's worth it. But every drawer you clear, every unnecessary obligation you release, every moment you choose peace over pressure, is a step back toward yourself. You don't have to do everything today. You just have to begin. One thing, one breath, one choice to live a little lighter than yesterday. Because when you begin to clear the space around you, you also clear the space within you. And what you find there, my friend, might just be the part of you that's been waiting patiently to return all along. Less to carry, more to feel. As we close this time together, I want to leave you with something simple and deeply true. The older we get, the more we come to understand that the most valuable things in life cannot be bought, boxed up, or saved for later. They are not things. They are moments. They are morning light spilling through the window, the laughter of a grandchild over the phone, a favorite song that brings tears to your eyes for no reason at all, the stillness of your home when everyone else is asleep. These are the things that matter now, and often we find them most clearly, not when life is full, but when life is quiet. Not when we're chasing more, but when we finally stop to ask, what do I really need today? The answer is almost always simpler than we expect. We need connection. We need peace. We need space, not just in our homes, but in our hearts. You see, a simpler life isn't a smaller life. It's not a life with less love or less meaning. It's a life where you can breathe again. It's a life where your days feel like your own, where your mind is clear, your spirit is light, and your time is filled only with what truly belongs. You don't need to change everything all at once. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You just need to be kind to yourself, to listen more gently, and to trust that even in this moment, even with all that life has brought, you're not too late. You're right on time. And maybe, just maybe, this is the season you begin to feel free again. If this message spoke to your heart today, I'd love to hear from you. In the comments below, share one small thing you're ready to let go of. An item, a habit, a thought, anything. Your words might be the exact encouragement another woman needs to hear. And if you haven't already, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. Because here, we talk about the things that matter. We talk about life after 60, not as an ending, but as a powerful, peaceful, beautiful chapter, all its own. Thank you for spending this time with me. Take care of your space, take care of your peace, and most of all, take care of your beautiful, ordinary, extraordinary life. Until next time.